Hello, how are you? Today, I'm going to talk to you about a simple, delicious ingredient that's easy to find in any supermarket, and that has a beneficial effect on your blood pressure. Many people even have this ingredient at home, but don't use it and miss the opportunity to improve their blood vessel walls, reduce inflammation, boost nitric oxide production, and even increase the elasticity of their arteries. So I'm going to tell you what this ingredient is and how to add it to your daily routine. You're going to love it. Stick around until the end. You won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you if you have any issues with your blood pressure, if you get it checked, or if you usually measure your blood pressure. When you measure it, do you usually find that it's within the normal range, or is it high? Tell me a little more about it in the comments. I'd love to see your comment. If you can, go ahead and like the video. That's super important to me. It shows YouTube that you like the channel and that you support and trust my content. And if you know someone who has blood pressure issues and needs to learn more about foods that can help their health, share this video. Let's spread this chain of kindness. This is what I want here with the channel. A lot of people think that when we talk about controlling blood pressure, it's just about cutting out salt or reducing sodium. But it's not quite like that, because blood pressure is much more complex than simply removing one ingredient from our diet. Blood pressure can involve the rigidity, the stiffness of a person's arteries, dysfunction of the endothelium, which is the wall, the inner layer of the blood vessels, oxidative stress itself, a low-grade chronic inflammation that has been affecting the person for some time, and even insulin resistance. So what raises blood pressure isn't just the issue of blood volume, but mainly the resistance that the blood encounters as it circulates through our circulatory system. So imagine a hose that's stiff and dried out, one that you left out in the sun for a long time and the rubber became hard. The water pressure inside there is much higher than in a hose with new, more malleable, more flexible rubber. So just to make this analogy, the more rigid the wall of the vessel is, the harder it is for you to control your blood pressure. This delicious and easy to find ingredient, something you can have at home that can help with blood pressure, is cocoa powder. I'm not talking about chocolate milk powder, I'm talking about actual cocoa, 100% or 70%. I'll also explain the difference to you. Because cocoa contains a set of ingredients, nutrients that are naturally present in it, which play very interesting roles for our blood pressure. The first ingredient that is naturally present in cocoa powder is flavonoids. Cocoa contains a specific type of flavonoid called epicatechin, which plays an interesting role in our body. It stimulates the production of nitric oxide, which is a molecule that regulates the dilation of blood vessels. Remember when I told you about the hose that's more flexible? So when it is released, it signals for the smooth muscle of the arteries to relax, and when they relax, they dilate, and when they dilate, vascular resistance drops. So when this resistance drops, blood pressure tends to decrease, and this mechanism is similar to what happens during physical exercise. So it's very interesting. Studies have already shown in practice that cocoa, because of these flavonoids it contains in significant amounts, can also have a significant impact on lowering a person's blood pressure. So this significant reduction in blood pressure, we know that over time it can help lower the risk of stroke. And the benefits are even more evident in people who already have slightly elevated blood pressure, those with metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, and those over 50 years old. So consuming cocoa, especially for these people, provides a very interesting complementary beneficial effect. Other beneficial ingredients found in cocoa are potassium and magnesium. These two minerals play a very interesting role when it comes to blood pressure control. 2 tablespoons of cocoa can contain between 300 and 400 milligrams of potassium, which is a very large amount. It's even more than what's in a banana, for example. And regarding magnesium, it can be between 80 and 100 milligrams. Patricia, I don't really understand what that means in practice. When we look specifically at magnesium, just 2 tablespoons of cocoa can provide around 25% of the daily magnesium requirement, which is quite significant. So it's very interesting because we know that magnesium is related to the relaxation of the smooth muscle in the arteries, to the regulation of vascular tone of the blood vessels, to improved insulin sensitivity, and also to the reduction of vascular inflammation of the blood vessels. In fact, magnesium deficiency is relatively common in people with hypertension and metabolic syndrome. So it ends up being an easy and delicious way for you to add more magnesium to your daily routine. Potassium is another ingredient that we talk about a lot when we think about blood pressure, about controlling blood pressure, because potassium acts, let's say, in a counter-regulatory way to sodium. In our body, there is what we call the sodium-potassium pump. So when we have more potassium in the body, we are able to stimulate the sodium to be pulled along with the fluid to be eliminated through urine. So it helps to excrete excess water and excess sodium through urine. So potassium is very important if we want to control blood pressure, and dietary potassium, which we consume through food, is the most recommended in these cases. And as I mentioned, cocoa is an excellent source of natural potassium. Another beneficial effect can be on inflammation and oxidative stress. We know that hypertension is closely linked to this oxidative stress. When there is an excess of free radicals, nitric oxide is degraded more quickly, so there is less vasodilation and more stiffness in the arteries. And these cocoa flavonoids can act as antioxidants, reducing this degradation. So, with less oxidative stress, the tendency is for nitric oxide to last longer in the bloodstream, which benefits the vascular environment. Before I start talking about which type of chocolate, how much to consume, and how to consume it, I want to make it clear that when I talk about these benefits of cocoa, I'm not saying it's a free pass. I'll just add cocoa to my daily routine, and then I'll be able to eat whatever I want. I can eat lots of sodium, lots of sugar, lots of bad fats. I don't need to worry about my diet. I don't need to exercise. I can smoke. That's not how it works. We know that blood pressure is related to several factors. It's multifactorial. So ideally, you should always use good judgment regarding your diet, your lifestyle, and your sleep. Avoid consuming alcoholic beverages and smoking because these are very harmful to your blood pressure. Never stop taking your medication on your own, and make sure to have regular checkups with your doctor and your local nutritionist. So, what type of cocoa, how much cocoa can we add to our daily routine, and how can we incorporate it regularly? Because it's no use saying it's just any chocolate. As I mentioned, there's a big difference between chocolate powder and actual cocoa. And when we think about chocolate bars themselves, like a 70% or 80% chocolate compared to milk chocolate, when the chocolate has a high concentration of sugar, a lot of added fat, and a small amount of cocoa, it ends up having fewer beneficial effects because it contains less of that substance, that ingredient, which is cocoa, that brings these benefits. So, on top of everything, it's worth remembering the negative role that sugar plays in blood pressure control. Sometimes we focus a lot on sodium, on salt, but sugar is extremely harmful to the arteries. I have a video here on the channel talking about what sugar does to our circulation, our blood pressure, and our heart. That video is really good, and I'll leave it here below in the description for you. So, consuming too much sugar increases inflammation, insulin resistance, and even blood pressure in the long term. And the effect we're talking about here is related to 100% cocoa, or at least above 70%, as I mentioned to you, ideally above 85%. And usually, regarding the amount, what studies indicate is 2 tablespoons of cocoa per day or more. You don't even need much more than that to achieve these beneficial effects of cocoa. So how can you consume it strategically? Because many people think only of milk. Of course, it can be an interesting option to add it to your milk, your plant-based milk, and make it like a hot chocolate or even a cold chocolate if you prefer. It can be an interesting option, but remember that you can also add it to your pancake. You can mix it with eggs, some bran, blend it well, and make a cocoa pancake, which turns out super delicious. You can mix it into your smoothie. If you usually have milk, have whey, add some fruit, you can add cocoa there too, which will make it even richer. Another alternative is to add it to your porridge mixed with yogurt and chia to make those breakfast jars. I have lots of delicious recipes for them here on the channel. So the most important thing is to think about consistency, about how to add this in different ways to your daily routine, and also without adding condensed milk, sugar, or heavy cream, because then you'd be compromising a food that could be very beneficial by incorporating other ingredients that aren't so healthy. Remember, if you like chocolate bars, I have a recipe here on the channel for you to make your own chocolate bar at home, and it's much easier than you think. I'll leave the link to that recipe here. And I also have recipes for chocolate ice cream, mousse, pudding. So I'll leave my playlist of chocolate desserts down below to inspire you. Tell me if you usually eat chocolate on a daily basis, what type of cocoa you buy, whether it's 100% or 70%. I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, because that's really important to me, and to share this video with anyone you think would enjoy this information. Let's expand this chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.